Hi, Julian. How are you?
I'm great, thanks, Darren. It's really nice to be here and to join this chat show.
Brilliant. So how's life at the BPA?
Life at the BPA is non-stop at the moment. There's a lot of things going on, and I'm sure everyone in the parking community is aware of the bill that's working its way and hasn't made it to the Queen's announcement today for various reasons. We're not here to talk about that today, but that's obviously occupying a lot of our time and certainly Steve's time. But what else is going on? We're getting ready for ParkX, which this year will be a virtual affair.
Virtual, yeah. Looking forward to that.
For obvious reasons.
Looking forward to that. Looking forward to that.
We have our booth booked.
Oh, excellent! I look forward to seeing you virtually there.
Yeah. See you virtually there.
Yeah. We're covering all the cutting edge stuff going on at the moment around mobility, around data, around active travel, around the changing face of parking as well. And so much is going on, not just with the bill, but you've probably seen we've done a lot of work around women in parking. We're going to be covering all of that. So it's going to be a lot of stuff of interest for everyone, I think.
Great.
Yeah,
so what about the Park Active stuff?
What about Park
Tell us a bit more about that.
I've got plenty to tell you about that, certainly. How about I do something quite snazzy and segue into a nice explainer animation, which will cover anything I forget to mention, I suppose. It just lasts a few minutes. How does that sound?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, sounds brilliant. Yeah, go for it.
Let's see if I can do that seamlessly. Here we go.
It's the little things in life that make the biggest difference. Exercising, eating healthy, or changing the way we travel. The BPA is playing its part and launching a new initiative, Park Active, designed for communities who want to make active travel easier and help improve everyone's health by encouraging more of us to park, then walk or cycle. Park Active facilities are found en route, usually 10 to 15 minutes away. Whether you're looking to change the way you travel or you manage a car park, Park Active has something for everyone. Becoming Park Active means more accessible, more attractive parking, while also helping tackle the environmental impact of driving by reducing congestion, pollution, and freeing up space for pedestrians and blue badge holders, helping build healthier communities for all, while still supporting high streets, towns and city centres. Every journey starts with a destination. Make yours Park Active. To find out more, visit the Park Active website.
I think the BPA, have released sort of quite a few animations, haven't they? Sort of over different periods and different schemes and projects that they're running on. And I think they're absolutely brilliant. They sort of give like a really fun, good overview of the actual scheme and the project that's taking place, and really get to the point of what it's all about and so on. So I think they're absolutely brilliant.
Well, I guess the thing is, there's so much that happens in parking and so much you want to get across, but sometimes people just want it in a bite-sized nugget, and an explainer animation does that really nicely. Even if you're looking at it on your phone and you haven't got the audio, you get the message,
I'll do like those little infographic type clips, because as you say, it's sort of just a little sort of sound bite. And so is that available now, or is that due to be released? How can people get to see that?
Well, the animation, yes, that's on YouTube. In fact, the best place to start is the website, which is park-active.co.uk, and you'll see the link to the video there, but also our operational guide and all of the resources that come with Park Active.
So we'll share that at the end as well. That'd be great.
Definitely. So obviously we've seen the animation there, and obviously that gives sort of the overview, like you say, in a brilliant sort of bite-size way of doing it. But can I ask like how the scheme started, who's involved, and
Sure.
why you feel it's important to bring such a scheme to the market?
Well, I think it all goes back to someone you guys probably know, Ali Toos, who's our local authority business manager. She was having a stroll in the first lockdown, and she was noticing there was a car park on the periphery. I think it's Southampton she lives. And, there was hardly anyone there. And at the same time, she could see around her people jogging and walking and connecting with nature like we all did at first lockdown. And she kind of put the two together and thought, well, why aren't we using this space to encourage people to make active travel a bit easier for them? And why don't we sort of acknowledge the fact that not everyone can cycle or walk all the way to work or wherever they're going. A lot of us live in rural areas that aren't well served by public transport, for example, and we'll need to drive some of the way. But we all want to do a bit for the environment, cut down congestion, pollution. So we could develop a scheme whereby operators could offer up some of their space for active travel or to encourage active travel onward choices. So they could do things like have an easy way of transferring from the car to the bike, have bike locker schemes, have a bike hire scheme, maybe even have a little stall that does bike MOTs. And also think of walking as well, make sure that there's clear signage to nicer, safer walking routes. And even incentivize people to do this by having a lower tariff on these peripheral car parks to the ones, right in the centre of things. And, the other thing is we really don't want to go back to a car-led recovery. We don't want to see what we saw last summer with people parking on roundabouts in Southampton or, all over the place in Snowdonia. This is a great way of encouraging people out of those really congested areas and walking and cycling, into them instead.
Do you think the infrastructure's there already? Is it just a case of horses for courses, maybe further around the old sort of park and ride sites is perhaps a destination for cycling and cycle racks and, lockers or whatever, and maybe, the more traditional car parks, if you like, the long stay on the periphery of a town centre is a more encouraged as a park and walk type site?
I think, it's hard to generalise, but yes, you're right. There are already park and ride and park and stride. People have already used that phrase quite a lot. And they are generally really well placed for this sort of thing. But a lot of operators might not have thought about how well placed their standard car park is for offering this sort of option. So you can think of long stay car parks that are often out of town, but you can also think of the journey for parking at hospitals. Always a real pain, isn't it, trying to find somewhere to park. Car parks on the outskirts of hospitals could be park active, or for large employers, football stadia, all that sort of thing. That really fits the concept nicely as well. So it's not just your park and stride or your commuting, it's all those other ways that you can avoid congesting areas.
Yeah, I think it sort of really opens up, doesn't it, actually? So like it sort of makes you think beyond just it's a patch of land, it's just a bit of space. We don't really get a lot of cars that go in there in general terms, sort of Monday to Friday, even over weekends and so on. So yeah, I mean, it definitely sort of makes you think differently about a particular space or car park that's probably underutilized during those periods. So I mean, I think it sounds absolutely amazing. But how can local authorities, parking operators, landowners, so the people that obviously have seen these spaces, seen these open spaces, how can they get involved in Park Active?
Well, what we've set up is essentially a brand that people can buy into. And when I say buy into, there's no cost. That's the great thing about it. We've developed this brand through a bit of funding from the DFT. We've got a logo, we've got an operational guide, we've got communications toolkits. We've even got the TSRGD compliant road signage for local authorities, so they can have a road sign that points towards Park Active, a template for them to use. So in essence, we've got a framework that a local authority can just take off the peg and say, right, let's do Park Active. Let's have our car parks have this signage. Let's have the road signage. And at its most basic level, it just needs to be active travel friendly. It needs to be in the right location and offer some options for active travel. So it doesn't need a massive capital outlay. Commercial operators can do exactly the same. They just don't have the benefit of the road signage necessarily because they're not part of the local authority.
But taking it to the next level, obviously sort of, the infrastructure's there, utilising car parks and the like, and existing sort of footways if it's park and walk. But, do you see a bigger buy-in from, highway authorities and highways departments to create, safe cycle or, safe crossing points on those routes, if this really takes off?
I think that's sort of, you're talking about joined up thinking, which doesn't always happen in public, but it needs to happen for these things to work. And the government really threw some money at this last year with the gear change policy and the 10-point green recovery plan. And funding is being drip fed in different stages for local authorities to access. And I mean, the primary thing is, I guess, cycle routes that are well designed and permanent and well consulted on. Walking, also very important. And Park Active has been designed to sit within all of that, with all the things that local authorities are doing. Majority of them are actually announcing they've got climate emergencies, and they have to do something about that to clean the air. So this, again, fits nicely with that too.
Oh, that sounds brilliant. Yeah. So you got any sites already signed up?
We have indeed, yes. We've got, I think, 3 sites in Colchester with North Essex Parking Partnership. They've got they've sort of looked at the operational guide and they've really taken it on board. So they work with, I think it's probably My Permits or one of those back office and tariff companies to incentivize people to use a Park Active site. I think they get like half off their parking tariff for doing that, and then they can, they've got the opportunity to book cycle hire and so on. All of that can happen there. The same thing is due to happen in Brighton and Hove. They're going through a public consultation so that they can have it at a couple of sites in Brighton. Anyone who's tried to park in Brighton will know how extortionate it is and difficult it is. So perfectly placed for them. There's a private operator, Green Parking, who've got it in 5 sites across the country, and we're just looking at the making sure the signage is fit for purpose there. So that should be online soon. And then we're having conversations with one of the rail networks because it can work nicely with a lot of rail parking is underutilised at the moment, and it's often on the outskirts of towns. So why not have Park Active?
And going the other way into sort of central sort of rail stations where sometimes they don't have parking and it's can be a destination.
And the other bit of work is all of the interest this is generated in the commercial entities that are in active travel already. So you've got a number of companies that have these really clever bike locker schemes where you can book in advance where you're going to put your e-bike. It can charge while it's there. You've got e-scooters are going through trials at the moment. They'll probably be legal like our European friends eventually. You've got to dock them and lock them. All these people would love to be associated with Park Active, so we're offering a means by which they can use our logo as long as they meet a few criteria.
Even things like sort of plug-in vehicles, cars, and should be on the there's an argument they should be on the out of town, not in the middle of the high street.
Yeah, and it fits their need for charging. It tends to be long term. So
long term, exactly. Yeah. It always was a puzzle to me where you had in the early days long term chargers in the short term spaces.
Sure. Yeah. I think people are getting around that conundrum now, but it took a while, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean, in the early days there was very few rapid chargers available, and the long charge were in the more convenient places, weren't they?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, Park Active to me sounds like it sort of like it brings everything together. So everything that's happening or everything that's happened is happening now, and future proofing as well. The way we're going with green energy and green vehicles and so on. It actually sounds like it like brings it all together and ties all the different features and functions of an open space that's probably underutilized and actually making it future proof as well. To me, that's what it sounds like.
Well, took the words out of my mouth. I couldn't have put it better, Darren. That's what we're aiming at, really. And
I'll sell you that strapline for you.
Sorry,
I'll sell you that strapline for you.
Excellent. I'll take that. I mean, it's a starting point to make sure that the parking sector is given every opportunity to embrace active travel and the changes in the way that we are moving. And I think over time, it's going to be a growth market, and all of the locking and the charging will be monetized, and operators can take a share from the e-scooter, the e-bike, the e-cargo bike company and the locker company who are taking that space in the car park. So it's not just about giving away space. This will be something that has a business model that evolves over time. But at the moment, alongside this, we're giving this away at the BPA. In the future, it could be another scheme like the safer parking scheme. It could be, it could develop its own real identity, and with that, the standards of what people would expect when they go from their car to their bike will raise as well. But it's a great starting point, I think.
I mean, as Darren said, it's pulling it all together, all the tools, because all these things individually have probably existed sort of before, but it's sort of coordinating them into, and obviously the new technologies, the e-bikes, the chargers, and things like that. Obviously, the pandemic has sort of encouraged people to sort of get out there. So it's sort of harnessing all of those and pulling it all together. I mean, I know many years ago, my time in local authority, it was just literature, because the central car parks were under pressure and there was plenty of space just on the periphery. So we created a map simply, here's the 5-minute sort of boundary, here's the 10-minute, and here's the 15-minute. You can be in the city centre within a 10-minute walk or a 15-minute walk, if you're prepared to sort of park in this location that's half the price. Just sort of encourage and giving people the information. Really, so a lot of it is sort of disseminating that information, isn't it?
Yeah. And get people just to think about changing their behaviour, because people do the same thing again and again and don't always stop and think, well, what if I just changed it up a little bit and walked that bit further? How much more fit I might feel. I might see a bit of my local town that I haven't seen before. And all
it's
that.
Creating habits, isn't it? I know one of the early sort of lockdown sort of webinars had talked about sort of habit forming, and I think it's about 6 weeks you do something and all of a sudden it becomes habit for people.
That's right. Yes, I do recall that. I think it's
something like 56. I think it's 56 days is the average. So there's obviously some people create their own habits in a shorter space, and some people need longer. But if you stick at something for long enough, it becomes sort of ingrained in your behaviour.
Yeah,
I think
parking properly, walking.
Yeah, I think we know from sort of parking. I know from my time in local authority and my own personal experience when I sort of drive to work, and in any type of time where you're parking at work, even going to the office now, sometimes parking is very habit orientated. So you aim for the same space. So if you go to that car park, you tend to aim for the same space because you know where it is, you know what it is. And if someone else parks in that space, you're almost sort of internally enraged that somebody's parked in your space. And it's not a given right that that's your space at all. Changing people's habits, I think, but incentivizing it is the biggest play in this, isn't it? So like you say, being more active. I think over the last year, people have become probably a bit more conscious about becoming a bit more active in themselves, and we've been at home a lot more, and seeing a change in lifestyle and so on. So I mean, I think it's probably coming at the particularly good time, isn't it, now that the country is returning to normal. So we're probably going to be using our vehicles a lot more, and moving around a lot more, and going into central car parks or outskirt car parks.
It's that crucial time to give them that choice rather than people just repeating what they did before.
So the toolkit gives sort of authorities, parking managers, all they need to sort of get on the right track.
Yeah, sure. We spent a lot of time on this, and as I said, we had some help from the DFT. So I guess the key resource is the operational guides, which says what the essential criteria for a park active site would be, and a whole range of desirable criteria. Like ideally, it's part of the safer parking scheme, because you don't want to park your $2,000 e-bike and then find it's dodgy. But also things you might not think of, like a lot of people, myself included, can't stick a bike on the back of the car. They've got to stick up the roof because of the design of the car. What you don't want is to say park active and then have a place with one of those low barriers.
Visions of you driving your highway with your bike up there.
Destroy your bike.
All of those commonplace, things, common sense things to think about, but also funding. And funding is key for both local authorities and to a certain extent private sector. It's a new thing they've got to think about. And there are a whole range of different funds available. I mentioned the DFT, but there's other charities and various ways in which you can think about developing a park active offering. We're not funding these, all the options, but the website has a whole range of of links to all the different funding options available, news items, and then to make it easy for you, we've got a communications toolkit, which my colleague Dave put together, and the branding guidelines, so that we make sure that it's consistent wherever you look for it. Eventually, what I want to see is one of those kind of maps that locates where Park Active is around the country, so you can all kind of be part of a community and make sure you look out for it wherever you're going if you travel around.
Linked again to sort of Parkmark and
yeah.
That's brilliant. Have you got Julian? You got like a team of people? Because I know obviously a lot of people like that. I mean, they love toolkits and point them in the right direction and so on. But when you say about the branding and where to put the signage and so on and so forth. So what I'm really getting at is, like, is there somebody that can do a site survey eventually? Obviously, once we're able to sort of get back out and about and so on. So is there a team of people that have either part of Park Active? So you say, like, obviously the Colchester boroughs and so on.
I mean, a team at the moment running it is myself and Julia Jeps, who's one of our business development managers, and Dave on the comms side, and Kelvin's been very helpful on the governance, setting it up. And we've also had a team of BPA members in a steering group, my board chair Connor Greeley, and a range of other people in the sector. So you've got Adam from Q Park and Stuart Harrison from, I'm going to be shot for getting this wrong. Eurocar Parks, I think. And they're all kind of being the reality test. But if we've got an idea, we put it to the steering group and they say, oh yeah, that might work, or have you thought about this? And so that's helped it shape into what it is now. Going forward, if you're an operator and you want to get involved, you have to submit your, where your car park is and a few pictures of where you might want to put the signage through a filter on the website. So we'll look at that and we'll say, yeah, that's bang on for Park Active. Go ahead and sort of develop the signage. Or we'll say, well, maybe not. Have you thought about that? And we'll plan to audit it every couple of years just to make sure it still looks okay. And as I said, the idea is eventually we might develop a brand that has an accreditation. But at this current stage, it's myself and Julia just making sure the website runs correctly.
Great stuff.
Yeah, brilliant.
I think we've probably covered everything, haven't we? Now, is there anything else we've missed, Julian or Darren?
Yeah, and I should say, use this opportunity for a merciless plug of ParkX again. On day 2, we've got the theme of mobility on the move. We're going to have a professor from Leeds University who's written an amazing report on people's attitudes to travel and how they've changed as a result of the pandemic. I think that's Professor Greg Marston. We've got speakers from OZEV, which is now the Office for Zero Emission Vehicles, talking about how policies from government is trying to nudge people towards EVs. We probably have a scooter company, because they're probably going to be legal soon. They're doing a government trial. They'll be presenting on the micro-mobility aspect. Como UK, a charity that are promoting the idea of mobility hubs. And then in the afternoon, we've got a senior chap at the DFT who's in charge of active travel. That's Russell Rupert Furness. And a range of commercial entities talking about what they can offer Park Active. You know, the Bike Locker, Docker, all those companies. And Richard Walker at North Essex Partnership is going to talk with me about our first big Park Active scheme over in Colchester. So that's definitely worth checking out.
Brilliant. Well, we'll look forward to being there and
we'll certainly be there,
partaking in as many of those as we can. So just really thanks for joining us, Julian. Really, I know we normally catch up twice a year at my sort of Southwest regional meetings.
Yes,
and you always give us a really good update.
Yeah.
So we're quite fortunate to have you part of that group. But it's great to catch up, and we can sort of share this with many other people.
Sure. I look forward to see you then in the flesh, and yourself, Darren, at the next. I think it's Parking Technology I often bumped into you, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
The day.
Yeah. No, definitely. No, it was good. Yeah. So thank you, Julian, for this, and thank you for bringing it to everybody's attention.